Yellow, yellow. Get some notes together.
I guess I have one agenda item about the spec
Yeah.
for the environment
Wanna,
variables for third-party stuff.
you want to throw it on the doc? So we get it recorded. And it's not official yet, but I think I'm getting some resources from Lightstep to help with prototyping in at least Python and hopefully also JavaScript.
Sweet. Code button. I don't even know if that lights up. It's made by audience, but it's always hard to keep track of who's where.
Yeah.
So this is about adding an environment variable of value for a third-party enum or third-party vendor. So for example, we have a sampler or a propagator, and I thought it makes sense to have the values in the spec also because they don't cost much. They're just one line, but they allow us to be consistent across the SDKs so that one SDK doesn't use a different name. So Yuri was saying that
Yeah.
he doesn't like that idea. Maybe it's just like if the documentation for this plugin type of mechanism was there, it'd also be okay to have the names. But well, okay. So I guess this didn't come up at morning meeting.
Yeah, let me see where. I guess what you're trying to say when you say it's the X-ray sampler is it's like a particular sampling algorithm, right? That
It's a
X-ray
remote.
happens to
It's
use.
the remote sampler. It's just an API X-ray provides for sampling based on some configuration in the server. Obviously, this isn't what we want long term for people to use, but it's an API we have right now, and we do want to allow users to use it.
Yeah.
So that's why I marked it third party. We have that sort of third party italics convention for the propagators. I was hoping that would save me from too much controversy. Obviously.
So let me see if I can figure out what Yuri's saying. I think is what he's saying that like this is a plugin essentially. And so like if there's a plugin, then you have to like install the plugin.
Yeah, and then the
And
plugin would identify itself with this name, which is exactly the implementation we take in Java. So that is what we do. And so maybe I just need to document that.
I think what he's maybe trying to say is this is how you configure which it's not about identifying which one is used, or I mean, I think it's also about producing that information, right? But I think this is about configuring which one is used. And if you're using a plugin, then you have to install the plugin to configure it to use that one. In which case, do you need an environment variable? I'm not saying you don't. I think that's what he's saying. And he's
Mhm.
saying, and if you don't have that plugin, what's the SDK supposed to do when you ask for the X-ray thing? But
Yeah.
I
And
imagine.
to
I was
answer
gonna,
whether you need the name or not, I think yes, because for example, this plugin would be included in maybe an AWS distro, but that doesn't mean all the users want to use it. So it just wants to be there as an option for them, but not the sampler that's used no matter what.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. I think, but it's probably your, at least right now, your distro code that's interpreting this, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm curious, well, you say you're doing this today, right? Like this currently
Yeah,
works this way today. So
for
how does
Java.
like,
Yeah.
how does the SDK not get confused if the SDK is trying to pick? Like, doesn't the SDK read this and try to pick a sampler?
Yep. So we have a service interface for samplers. So to load all the registered samplers, and then it loops through to check if they have the name. If the name isn't present, then it'll print out something like, "Oh, the sampler couldn't be found. Do you have it on your class path or something?"
Got it. You
Same
Java
like,
people again.
yeah. Again, um,
Right.
I mean, I
That's,
assume something simpler would work with other languages, and like in
oh,
OTSL,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah. I think in other languages, though, it has to be part of the SDK definition that like every sampler, like samplers are loaded into a map with like a
yeah,
name and a
exactly,
sampler. And
yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know if we define that to work that way these days. Because you guys aren't using, you guys are like doing this with like Java class paths loading, yada yada,
Yeah,
right? Like
well,
this is not something the
which then gets
SDK
loaded
is.
into a map, yeah, by the
Well,
SDK.
sure,
So
but I guess
yeah,
what I'm saying is like this isn't part of like the Java SDK, right? Like this is, you're doing it some other way, or is it part of the Java SDK?
so there's code in the Java SDK to load the services into a map and then read from there. And
Right.
so we're using the Java mechanism for loading services, but I'd say the code is still in the SDK to handle this.
Let me see. I'm just going to look at the SDK spec real quick and see. I think this is the right way to do this, just to be clear. I think
Mhm.
the way you're doing it's correct. I'm just curious
Yeah,
whether we
yeah.
like, I just have a feeling it's probably not implemented like this in various languages. It's more just like you install a sampler, or in which case it uses that one, or the thing just is hardwired to like I'm a little concerned like the plugin interface in other languages doesn't have room for labeling
Yeah.
the plugins.
The only other one I know is Python, which they've done a very possibly complicated, but then a pretty nice way of managing plugins. Like each module can define their entry point config file, and that has all the different environment variables that map to components that are plugged into the SDK.
Yeah. Let me respond to Yuri here. Find this. issue again.
Just
I'll
quickly wanna-
respond and help you out, so it's not just you and him.
Thanks. I
Uh,
want to point out that OTel propagators, I thought we took a similar approach because we have the X-ray and the OT
Yes.
trace. They're sort of called out as third party, which they're not required by the SDK. But if they're implemented, then we use these names. Like that was sort of the
yes.
intent, I think.
I
Yeah.
think everything should work
Yeah.
like this. Like
Yeah.
everything that's pluggable in open telemetry should
Yep.
have like a label
Yeah, that is
and a way to
standard,
configure it
and
from
then-
a configuration file.
Not built
like
into the
normal.
SDK. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's maybe then still even after that, like there's maybe the question of like, does the X-ray thing need to be listed in here? Like,
Mhm.
like, is it just that the thing we have to have listed is that sample, like this is the mechanism for loading a sampler plugin, and then if the users like loaded the X-ray one, then fine. So I don't know. I feel like maybe you both might be right that it doesn't necessarily need to be listed. So let me respond with maybe both of those things. Responded.
Cool.
Cool beans. Yeah, I don't really have anything else except I think until companies start supplying people to work on instrumentation and subject matter
Mhm.
experts to review our conventions, I don't really see how anything's going to move forwards. So I kind of
Yeah.
feel like we've run out of track that can be done with just like us talking.
Yeah.
So hopefully, do you know if AWS has plans for putting you or other people onto this this
Yeah.
line of
I-
work?
So I heard that. So I did hear some interest in someone helping with the Python. But if someone with Lightstep is also already saying they can help, that might be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to get those people
Those two
organized.
together to just work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, if we
So-
can't get people into all, I
Mhm.
suspect not everyone's gonna be able to come to this
Yeah.
afternoon meeting, so we might have to
Yeah.
start a morning one, but I'm
Mhm.
happy to do that.
Mhm.
But I just need to know like
Yeah.
who's doing it. So I'll keep trying to poke the PMs about it, but
So there's
I kind of
Nathaniel.
feel
I don't know if
like
you've talked to him, but he was going to help with the Python stuff. So if you can maybe invite him to that.
Nathaniel,
Yeah.
okay, did he come to the last one? No,
Not to this.
I think Nev
Yeah.
might be Wiley, and there's a guy named Johannes Tax at Microsoft that I think might be available, but
Mhm.
it's all feeling like I just kind of feel like I've hit this wall where everyone's like, oh yeah, there's a guy, maybe we're interested, but it's not like it's been difficult to be like, well, can you assign that person, have them like show
Yeah.
up to something? So if there's something I can do to like make a SIG meeting or something to get people to show up, I'm happy to do it. But I'm kind of feeling like
Yeah.
the managers or somebody has to like commit the resources, or we're kind of just stalled.
Yeah.
So but yeah, hopefully I've got like a small pile of stuff I have to get out today and like the next couple of days, but then I'm going to be able to start writing some Go code actually. So I'll be at least be able to help on the Go side. So,
Cool.
anyways, I think that's where we're at. I'm going to get back to writing stuff now. I think there's no more business. Go on. All right. Well, see you on the internet.